motion pictures have never been made in Hollywood, California.
Bandits used barbed wire to rob a bank.
Dolly Madison was the only woman in private life to be accorded the privileges of the floor in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Can you imagine that? Once more, friends, this is Lindsay McCary bringing you another session of this series in which we try to amaze you with odd facts and unusual news stories from the past. We'll be back with you in just 1.5 minutes. Will you wait for us? Here's our first interesting item. It's really 2 in 1 because, well, just listen to the gentleman from Tennessee speaking on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives on Jackson Day, January 8, 1844.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, what a colossal blot of shame rests upon this great government this day. This day, Mr. Speaker, we honor that great soldier and statesman, our revered and beloved 7th President of these United States, Andrew Jackson. Mr. Speaker, while we so do him this just honor, that grand old man of 77 years rests quietly in his home in Nashville, harassed by the shameful knowledge that this government had seen fit one horrible day to levy a fine of $1,000 upon him for contempt of court, but really for the assiduous execution of his faithful duty as he saw it.
Will the gentleman from Tennessee yield?
I yield to the gentleman from North Carolina.
Mr. Speaker, I've just noticed a beloved person sitting in the gallery of this house. A woman whose memory shall ever be revered by this nation because of her heroic act 32 years ago in saving from the hands of an enemy one of our most precious historic documents, the Declaration of Independence. Of course, I refer to Mrs. Dolly Payne Madison, widow of our fourth president. I move you that a committee be appointed on the part of this House to wait on Mrs. Madison and to assure her that whenever it shall be her pleasure to visit the House, she be requested to take a seat within the hall.
Thus did the United States House of Representatives honor 74-year-old Dolly Madison, widow of James Madison, by according her the privileges of the floor of the House. Up to the present writing, Dolly Madison is the only woman in private life who has ever been accorded this honor. Can you imagine that? It was also during that same year, 1844, that Congress ordered Andrew Jackson's $1,000 contempt of court fine to be repaid with interest. The aged ex-president later received a U.S. government warrant to the amount of $2,700. You've often heard the expression, you can drive a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, from a newspaper of more than 35 years ago comes this story. Mr. Charles Cott was driving his horse and wagon down a street in Chicago on a cold, wintry mid-December day. Perhaps Mr. Cott had a little early Christmas spirit. At any rate, as he drove along...
Up the daisy of the way we go to la da 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 da. Oh, look, just look. There's good old Quigley Saloon. I gotta stop and have a little drink. Steady, boy. Steady. You know, there's nothing like a little drink on a cold December day. No, sir. Now, you wait here, boy. You wait here, and I'll be right up. Oh, no, you don't have to wait here. You're coming with me. Horses have got to get warm inside, too. And I'll get you in the harness there. You and me will have a little drink of good old Quigley Saloon. Now, come on. Won't old Quigley be surprised? Come on, let's go. Come on. Oh, what'd you say? What? Oh, yes, you do want a drink. Now, come on. Don't be stubborn. You're going to have a little drink with me. Come on, now. You're going to have a drink, I tell you. Oh, come on.
Mr. Cott's horse did not enter Quigley's for the little drink, but Mr. Cott did enter court the next day, charged with disturbing the peace. Perhaps the judge was an animal fancier, for his sentence was...
Charles Cott, I appreciate the motives, but not the method. I'm going to let you off, though, and find you merely the court cost. But hereafter, don't try to drag your horse into a saloon.
So did Charles Cott of Chicago learn the full force of the old proverb, you can drive a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Can you imagine that? The ultimate in bank robbery stories comes from a newspaper of January 2, 1909. It seems that in Wellston, Oklahoma, some of the townspeople were surprised to see... but listen.
Hey, what's the idea over there with the bank? Look.
Hey, what's going on? I didn't hear nothing about 'em building a barbed wire fence around the place. What do you suppose the idea?
I don't know. Well, Hey, look, them fellas building the fence have got guns.
Well, yeah. Well, some of them are scattering along the fence. That's a holdup.
Darned if it ain't. Them fellas built that fence to hold us off while they robbed the bank. Get the rest of the boys, quick, get 'em!
While the citizens of Wellston were kept at bay by the robbers within the enclosure formed by the fence, the robbers worked on the vault, and suddenly...
They done it! They blew the vault!
And here they come! Look out!
The robbers got away after a running gun battle, and with them went $5,000 from the vault of the Bank of Wellston. And this robbery remains the first and only case I can find of bank robbers actually building a fence around the bank and then proceeding calmly to rob the bank while some of them held off the townspeople by means of a barbed wire fence and bullets. Can you imagine that? Mr. James Artlip of Aurora, Illinois, likes the movies. Oh, you don't think that's new, huh? Well, Mr. Artlip is 68 years old. And on February 24th, 1939, he saw his first movie. When interviewed, said the newest fan of Hollywood's make-believe,
Yes, sir, I think they got something there. I sure do like 'em. Honestly, it's just marvelous. Pictures actually move on the screen, and you can hear the actors talk.
You like 'em, huh?
You bet I do. I think I'll go see another one sometime.
Well, why have you taken so long to get to a movie, Mr. Artlip?
Well, I just never got around to it before. I pass 4 theaters every day, but I just never thought about going into one.
Well, what made you go in this time?
Why, I saw it was a picture about Jesse James. Thought I might just as well see it because I read a book about him.
So chalk up another conquest for Hollywood and the flickering photos, even though it did take them 68 years to win Mr. James Artlip. Can you imagine that? Do you remember this startling statement at the beginning of the program?
Motion pictures have never been made in Hollywood, California.
Well, like our others, that statement is true. Why? Because there is no such recognized town or city of Hollywood, California. It wasn't until the year 1910 that the motion picture producers realized that their needs for strong lighting could be filled by the brilliant Southern California sunshine and came to that region to build their first studios. They settled in the portion of the city of Los Angeles which had been the town of Hollywood. But in that same year, 1910, previous to the arrival of these first movie magnates, the town of Hollywood had already been annexed to the city of Los Angeles. And so our statement is true.
Motion pictures have never been made in Hollywood, California.
Can you imagine that? Well, now let's do a little foraging into the field of melody sleuthing. First of all, I want you to listen to a semi-classic selection which I'm sure you've heard before many, many times. The orchestra is going to play only a few measures, so listen carefully. And as you listen, try to recollect the name of the number itself and also the more modern popular number which this semi-classic selection most resembles. Are you ready? All right, listen. Now, what was the name of that selection?
Oh, I remember that, Lindsay. It's Cavatina by the famous German composer Joseph Joachim Raff.
That's right, Raff's Cavatina. Well, now, among all of you here assembled, did anyone recognize it as the possible foundation of one of our most popular hits of a few years ago?
I think I did, Lindsay.
All right, what is it?
My Baby's Arms.
And that is also correct. My Baby's Arms. Listen now, ladies and gentlemen, and see whether or not there is a distinct similarity between Raff's Cavatina and that smash hit from the Ziegfeld Follies of 1919, My Baby's Arms. And there you have it once more, friends. One more session of Can You Imagine That? We all hope you'll be listening on this same station when next we're scheduled to meet. Until that time, this is Lindsay McCarry turning you over to the very good care of your own station announcer and saying goodbye now.
A victim of robbers is arrested.
A fisherman catches a $5 bill.
The tune of one of the greatest of American national songs is also used by 13 other countries.
Can you imagine that? Yes, that's right. This is Lindsay McCarry bringing you one more in this series of broadcasts in which you hear strange facts and odd news stories from the past. We'll be back with you in just a moment or two with the first item, so be with us then, won't you? It can happen. It did happen in Omaha, Nebraska on the 14th of December in the year 1903. Late that night, the Reverend Edward Matthews walked toward his home along a lonely street. Suddenly, from the shadows of a building, two dark figures approached him.
All right, mister. Stick 'em up.
What did you say?
He told you to put your hands up, mister. We want your money.
Oh, so this is a holdup, is it? Well, then.
Hey, you can't do that. We gotta go.
You'll hold me up, will you? Now, while I have my two good fists, you won't.
Hey,
Here, what's going on?
Hey, that's a cop. Come on.
run with you. Yeah, so run with
Hey, catch those men. Come on.
Just a minute, you. What's the idea of fighting on the street?
Come on, they're getting away.
I said just a minute. I ask you what the idea
Let
is of
go of my arm.
Hey, I'm an officer of the law. You can't
I
do this.
said let
You just
go
come
of
along
me.
here with me. I'll take you right down.
And the Reverend Matthew soon found himself reposing in the Omaha jail, charged with resisting an officer. The next morning, a representative of the YMCA appeared in court.
I'd like to arrange for the bail of the Reverend Edward Matthews, Your Honor.
Yes, that can be arranged all right. You know him?
Oh, very well, sir. He's a fine, upright man, Your Honor. Very peace-loving.
Didn't appear so last night from the officer's report.
Well, I believe I can explain that, sir. You see, Mr. Matthews didn't understand that the plain-clothes man was an officer. He didn't understand what he was saying. You see, Mr. Matthews is very deaf.
Deaf? Oh, I understand. Very well, you may arrange for bail, and when the case comes up, the charges will be dismissed. Next case.
Yes, because of his deafness, the Reverend Edward... Do you think Friday the 13th is really an unlucky day? Well, here's a story I found that certainly seems to substantiate that ancient superstition. It comes from the town of Bridgeport, California, and it happened in the year 1911. J.J.D. Miller was known by his friends to have been operating a mine near that town. From about the 5th of October to the 1st of the next month, no one saw him. At last, some of the other miners decided to investigate, and what they found was the stark evidence of sheer melodramatic tragedy. At the bottom of a slightly inclined 15-foot mine shaft was Miller's body, standing upright, pinned in by a mass of rock which had fallen from the wall of the shaft. In his wallet, they discovered an old assay certificate proving the existence of gold in Miller's mine, and on the reverse side, an 8-day diary scribbled in Miller's handwriting.
October 6th. Frank Paraguiri, Sweetwater. If help does not come, send this message to M.C. Miller, wife, Harrisonburg, Virginia, and wire what to do with the body. J.J.D. Miller. This occurred Friday morning, October 6th. It is now Saturday noon. No help yet. Why did this come? Sunday night. It's cold and long. God help me. I forgive Mother. Monday. It is noon. Why did Dick forget? A drink of cold water could taste good. I'm getting weak. Tuesday night. The end is near. Don't see how Dick can forget me. Wednesday night. Guess tonight will be the last. No hope. The end is near. Friday noon. The 13th. No hope.
That was all. And J.J.D. Miller met his tragic death as the noonday sun on the meridian shone down that lonely shaft and lighted his last moments of life on this earth that autumn day in 1911, Friday the 13th. Speaking of luck, here's another story with an entirely different sort of ending. On May 12, 1929, Frank Gilbert, chef of one of the hotels in Edgewater Park, Mississippi, said to an assistant,
Say, Joe, you take care of things here for a while. I'm going down to the Gulf and do a little fishing. Okay, Frank. What are you going to get? Mackerel, I hope. Well, so long. So long, and good luck.
Good luck, huh? Well, let's see what kind of luck Chef Gilbert did have that day. After he had cast in his line, he waited for some time, and then...
Say, this must be a big one. Yes, sir, a big one. Or a hunk of seaweed.
You got something, stranger?
Yep, I think so. Yeah, say, he is a big one.
Sure is.
There.
Hey, what in the heck's that?
What? What?
That there thing sticking out of his gill.
What? What? Say, it's a $5 bill. Oh, boy, this is my lucky day.
Yes, sir, protruding from the fish's gill was a $5 Federal Reserve note. Can you imagine that? When George VI of England and his gracious consort, Queen Elizabeth, paid a recent formal state visit to the President of France, to their amazement, the citizens of the French capital burst into the British national anthem, singing it with almost perfect English diction. This was indeed a surprise, because if a Frenchman were to sing the English words, pronouncing them in French, they would sound like this.
Good save a gracious king. Long live a noble king. Good save the king. Send him victorious, happy and glorious. Long to reign over us. Good save the king.
So, how were these Parisians able to sing those words in almost perfect English? Well, the Paris newspapers had sponsored this gesture and had published a version of the anthem in phoneticized French. The word God was spelled G-O-D-D. Save was spelled S-A-I-V-E. The word hour appeared as A-O-U-R. Gracious was G-R-E-C-I-E-U-S-S. And the word king, K-I-N-N-G. And so on to the end of the verse. Among them are Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the United States, and these separate component parts of the German Reich, Prussia, Bavaria, Saxony, Württemberg, Mecklenburg, Hamburg, and Weimar, the capital of the Republic of Thuringia. As a matter of fact, the tune is claimed as having originated in many of these localities, so that today no one can prove from whence it first came. The British national anthem, almost as it is known today, was first heard at a tavern in Cornhill in 1740, sung by Henry Carey with the title, God Save Great George Our King. Back and forth across the continent of Europe flew the melody until, in the year 1832, Samuel Francis Smith, a young Boston theological student, was approached by the noted composer, organist, and choir leader, Lowell Mason.
Mr. Smith, you have, I believe, a thorough knowledge of the German language.
I have, sir.
Well, Mr. William C. Woodbridge, the famous New York educator, has just returned from Germany, where he found that the German children are thoroughly trained in a basic knowledge of music. He wishes to inaugurate a study of singing in the New York schools, and so he brought back some of the German music books. Will you, Mr. Smith, undertake to translate some of